Never really been a fan of turmeric tea, but this isn't bad. Hi everyone, I'm Chris from christhrowsshade and we're here to talk about all things photo and business. So if you've recently made the decision that you want to become a paid photographer, you know, business and commercial, you want to become a wedding photographer, landscape, you know, whatever. First of all, congrats to you. That's a big step. But there are some things you definitely should know before you dive completely off that cliff into that unknown. And so I have the top 5 things you definitely need to know before becoming a paid photographer that have nothing to do with skill. So the first one, no one cares about your gear. So unless you're working with a marketing agency and they have very specific requirements about what they need for their client, no one actually worries about your gear. As long as you can do the job, they only care about the output of your gear. For example, I know that here in Australia, we've got this platform called Airtasker. So people can post different tasks that they want done. Most of the time it's small things like, you know, someone wants their gender reveal photographed, or they're having an elopement or a birthday party or something like that. And I start to see all these people that'll start going, hi, I'm a photographer and I have these cameras and these lenses and I have this drone and this and this and this. And honestly, no one cares. As long as you can do the job, that's what they care about. Imagine if you were looking to get a plumber come in to your house and you're looking at a couple of different plumbers and they're like, oh yeah, we use this wrench to fix your toilet. Oh, okay. As long as you fix it, I don't really care how you do it, as long as it's fixed. As long as you can take the photo of my elopement or birthday party or, you know, whatever it is. I don't really care what gear you have, as long as you can actually do the job. So stop worrying too much about gear, you know, if you've got a certain lens or a camera or this and that. If a customer's happy with the output and they're happy to pay you, that's all that matters. Which brings us to number 2. Bigger isn't always better. I know when I first started out as a photographer, you know, I wanted the bigger camera body, the bigger lenses, you know, it looks impressive. I know clients go, ooh, he's bringing the big lenses out, he must be worth the money. And that's really fun, but after you've been holding that for 2 minutes, all of a sudden, bigger definitely isn't better. Actually having something that does the job, that's gonna be comfortable, that you can do repetitively, that's what's gonna be most important. If you're a wedding photographer and you're having to hold a camera with a big heavy lens for like 8, 10, 12 hours, it's really gonna hurt your shoulders. You're gonna be doing some damage, irrespective of how much you're actually charging for that wedding. I know recently I was doing a job where I took my backpack with all my gear in it, and the backpack was really heavy, and after 10 minutes I was actually starting to feel quite sore in my back before we even got to the spot that we're going to be shooting at. So the point is, having the bigger gear always looks cool, you know, the bigger the toys, the more it looks more important. But you need to make sure that you're taking care of yourself as well. If you're having to do this on repeat over and over with different jobs, whether it be once a week or multiple times a week, you need to know that you're not going to be hurting yourself at the same time. Which brings us to a very important point. Photos are subjective. So regardless of what type of photography you do, photography is art. It's an expression of you and your creative thought. But that also means that photos are subjective and not everyone's going to like that. It's not anything personal, it's just you need to be able to do the job of what people want. Think of photos a bit like music. If you had one song and you lined up 10 different people, not everyone's gonna like that song. You might have a couple that like it, a couple that don't, and a couple that think it's the worst thing imaginable, because it's subjective. It's your job to find the customers that like your genre, that like your style and the way that you take photos, get their attention and get them to pay you. Okay, so next point, which is 80-20. So anyone that's kind of done a little bit in business has probably heard this 80-20 rule. It's pretty much just saying that 20% of the output comes from 80% of the work. And that's just as applicable in photography as it is for any business. So unfortunately, bad news, you're not going to be shooting all the time, every day, all day. That's just not how it works. That might actually be 20% of your time. Cat. The other 80% of your time might be doing things like all the editing, chasing up payments, emailing and being on the phone trying to get clients, might be going to networking events, might be doing all these other peripheral things that help support photos actually being taken. I know I spoke to someone who does some photo work for Porsche and they said that maybe 20 or 30% of their time is actually done taking photos. The rest of it's all the admin and the organizing and everything else that surrounds, that provides a foundation for the photo shoot actually happening. It's not the most prettiest thing, but unfortunately it's a necessary evil. Which brings us to the last point and probably the most important, and that is to know thyself. And what I mean by know thyself is to know what you're good at, know what comes naturally naturally to you. Know what sucks and drains the life out of you. You know, if you're an extrovert and you like being the life of the party and out there and talking to people and all that sort of stuff, and you decide that you're going to be a studio photographer where you're just working by yourself hours at a time doing small little meticulous things, probably going to go a little bit crazy. You're probably not going to enjoy the photography process. Vice versa, if you're an introvert and you're not a people person and being in social situations really sucks the life out of you, being something like a wedding photographer where you have to be the life of the party, where you have to be over the top and help people enjoy themselves and be a real people person, probably not going to work out too much. Those should actually switch. So knowing what you're good at, knowing what comes naturally to you is going to be a great starting point. I'm not good at a wedding photography side of things. It's just doesn't come naturally to me, but I don't push against that door hoping to make it work. I stick to what I'm good at. So you need to know what you're good at and what you need to stick to. So those are the top 5 things you need to know before you start diving headfirst into being paid as a photographer. This is meant to be a long-term journey. You don't want to have 7 career changes. You've decided to do this because you love it, and we need to keep you being in love with it. So go and take these points, stress test them, see how it's going to work for you, and then go out and take awesome photos. You deserve to.